What you're about to discover might go against everything you've ever believed about manifestation. There's an uncomfortable truth that most people avoid facing. You don't get what you want. You get what you assume. And that explains why so many people, even after reading books, doing visualizations and saying affirmations, still feel stuck. There's a quiet law, forgotten by most, that shapes your reality 24/7, even if you've never heard its name. What if I told you that everything happening in your life right now, everything, is a direct result of what you've assumed to be true about yourself? And what if that's the only reason you're not living the life you dream of? Sounds crazy, right? But that's the paradox. Manifestation isn't about wanting more, it's about assuming it's already real. That idea flips everything we were taught about worthiness, divine timing, and working hard on its head. What I'm about to share with you might completely shift how you see reality. And if you stick with me until the end, you'll finally understand why feeling is the secret, how living in the end changes everything, and why most people are manifesting all wrong without even realizing it. If you apply what you're going to learn here, you could start noticing real changes this week. This isn't just another motivational speech. It's a deep reconnection with something you've always known deep down, but probably forgot in the noise of daily life. From now on, get ready to reconnect with a forgotten law of manifestation, one that works quietly, yet changes everything when used the right way. Are you ready to remember what your soul never actually forgot? There's a law that acts like the source code behind every part of your life, and what's wild is, almost nobody talks about it. Before scripting, visualizations, or any fancy manifestation hacks, there's one core principle. You are what you assume yourself to be. What Neville Goddard called the law of assumption is the root that turns thoughts into parallel realities, without effort, noise, or struggle. But in a world addicted to shortcuts and how to manifest fast videos, we forgot what actually matters. Conscious manifestation doesn't begin when you learn a new method. It begins when you recognize what you're already assuming as truth, right now. It's like we're all programming our own reality constantly, but no one's reading the manual. And you know what the most common glitch is? Thinking it's not working, when it actually is. The problem is it's working based on hidden, limiting beliefs. Consciousness creates reality. You manifest what you are, not what you want. Here's a real-life example. Someone repeats abundance affirmations daily, but deep down still assumes they're broke, unlucky, or undeserving. What happens? Life responds to the conviction underneath, not the words on the surface. Ever found yourself saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" Well, the answer might be right here. This blind spot catches most people. We forget that assuming is not the same as desiring. Imagination creates reality, but only when it becomes a lived, assumed state. Neville called this the forgotten law of manifestation, because people are always chasing something new, while ignoring what's eternal. And that spiritual amnesia comes at a cost, living a life that was never consciously chosen. But what if you've been manifesting all along, without even knowing it? Most people think manifestation is something you activate with a specific technique or ritual. But here's the truth. You're already manifesting on all the time. Your current reality, your relationships, your bank balance, your delays and patterns is a mirror of what you've been assuming, whether you're aware of it or not. Neville Goddard said it clearly. Consciousness is the only reality. Everything in your world reflects what you believe yourself to be. Manifestation didn't start when you learned about it. It started the moment you were born. Now pause for a second and really think, what have you been assuming about yourself lately? That you're hard to love, that money always slips away, that you always mess things up. Those beliefs form a state of consciousness, and that state is what plays out as reality. You are what you assume. The tricky part is people try to fix the outside world while staying locked inside fear, lack, and comparison. The result? More of the same. Real change doesn't start with action. It starts with assumption. What if there was a simple way to reset your mind every day? Here's a powerful exercise. Grab a notebook and write, what am I assuming to be true about myself today? Answer honestly. No filters. You might be shocked at what you discover, because that moment of self-awareness is where real power begins. When you finally see the invisible assumptions shaping your reality, you get the wheel back. But watch out. This is also where many people get tripped up. They confuse desire with power, and that's where a sneaky trap begins. Wanting is easy. We all want things. Better health, a loving relationship, financial freedom. But wanting alone doesn't manifest anything. In fact, strong desire often highlights the absence of what you seek. and that's where most people fall off track. Neville taught that living as if it's already done is far more effective than just wanting. The difference? To assume is to live from the end, to step into a state where it's already real even if nothing has changed on the outside yet. But there's a subtle trap almost everyone falls into. Let's say someone wants to be healthy, but keeps repeating, "I'm always sick, this never gets better, it's just my genes." The desire is clear, but the assumption is still stuck, and that assumption is what shapes reality. The key is to assume as real what you want to experience, not by faking it, but by genuinely feeling as if it's already yours. Sounds wild? Maybe. But here's the thing. Once you truly feel it, your mind stops chasing and starts creating. The law of assumption doesn't respond to what you desire. It responds to your state. And your state isn't just a single thought. It's a mix of your beliefs, feelings, and perceptions. You are what you assume to be. Most people stay stuck because they wish with intensity but live with doubt. That's where imagination comes in, not as fantasy, but as the tool to access already existing parallel realities. But can your mind really transport you to another world? When Neville said, "Consciousness is the only reality," he wasn't being poetic. He meant it literally. The outer world is a reflection of what you hold internally. Everything begins with "I am." Each state you assume opens the door to a new timeline, a new reality where that version of you already exists. Yes, that means you can live a completely different life, not by changing the world, but by changing the version of yourself you're tuned into. Think of it like switching radio stations. If you're tuned into "I am rejected," no matter what you do, that frequency will attract experiences to prove it true. But shift the dial to "I am loved," "I am abundant," "I am capable," and just watch what happens. It's not magic, it's alignment. The mind is like a remote control that switches dimensions, and every thought assumed with real feeling is a button that activates a different version of life. Living as if it's already done means living a new life, now. This idea of parallel realities might sound crazy at first, until you realize how many versions of you have already existed. The version of you who felt insecure, the version of you who believed a dream job was impossible, the you who survived things you thought would break you. Each version was a state. Each one created a world. So now the question is, if "I am" holds that much power, why do we cling so tightly to outdated versions of ourselves? Lots of people try to change their lives from the outside in. New job, new haircut, new city. But nothing really shifts if you're still carrying the same emotional story inside. The outer world only starts to bend when the inner world changes first. Whatever you're assuming to be true about yourself, others, life, is what's actively shaping your experience. You are what you assume, and that invisible identity can keep someone stuck for a lifetime. That's why so many people feel stuck in a loop. New attempts, same results. It's not bad luck. It's not lack of effort. It's usually unconscious loyalty to an old identity. Someone might say, "Now I'm abundant," but still deep down sees themselves as broke or undeserving. And the universe doesn't respond to words. It responds to state. According to Neville Goddard, real change happens when you quietly trade identities. You have to become the new version of you before the world catches up. Here's something practical you can do. Start noticing your automatic thoughts. For example, if you see someone successful and immediately think, "Yeah, but they probably had help," that thought says more about what you're assuming than 100 affirmations. The law of assumption doesn't overlook internal contradictions. It mirrors what you consistently feel and believe. To break the old cycle, it's not about effort. It's about fully stepping into the state, even when nothing seems different yet. But how do you create a new state when the old one keeps pulling you back? The real turning point happens when you stop living on autopilot and consciously choose what you want to assume as true. That's where inner recreation begins. The moment you decide, "From now on I assume I'm loved, I'm safe, I'm abundant," something shifts. Your imagination stops being daydreaming and becomes a design tool for your future. That's when conscious manifestation becomes real, not forced, but deliberate. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about repeating lifeless affirmations. Saying "I'm rich" while you feel terrified to open your banking app won't move anything. A real assumption shows up in how you walk, talk, and carry yourself. As Neville always said, feeling is the secret. That means you've got to start living, thinking, and acting like the version of you who already has it, even if no one else sees it yet. The world catches up to what you sustain with consistency. Need an example? Let's say you want to assume you're confident. Start acting like someone who is. Call the person you've been avoiding. Speak up, even if your voice shakes. Stop shrinking in conversations. That's how you change your reality with your mind. Not by waiting, but by embodying. And somewhere in that process, you'll cross an invisible line. One that separates people who really manifest from those who are just playing with the idea. Most people hear about the law of assumption and try to apply it intellectually. But manifestation isn't about logic, it's about emotion. Neville Goddard said it plainly, feeling is the secret. It's the feeling you carry inside that activates a new reality. Pretending you believe while your gut is full of anxiety doesn't cut it. The universe responds to what you feel is true, not what you're trying to convince yourself of. It's like an energetic password. When you truly feel that something is already yours, and even without proof, you enter the state of already having it. And that changes everything. How you talk, how you walk, even how you breathe. That's the invisible code that starts to rearrange the outer world. So no, it's not about faking emotions. It's about accessing real inner states through memory, visualization, and emotional recall, in a way that feels natural. Here's a tip that works. Before bed, close your eyes and imagine the final scene. Picture yourself already living what you want. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the quiet certainty. This is what Neville called living in the end, and it's where everything begins to shift. But to reach that space, there's something you'll have to learn to love: silence. Because in that silence, the first signs start to appear. Right before a major breakthrough, life whispers. It doesn't shout, it nudges. A random message, a new idea, a person reappears out of nowhere. These are the invisible signs that your new assumption has started to take root. At this stage, spiritual manifestation isn't visible yet, but it's already real within your awareness. The shift has begun. This is the part where most people give up, because they expected fireworks, and all they get is a gentle breeze. But those who truly get it recognize these small signals as gold, a compliment you weren't expecting, an invite you would have never imagined, a calm inside you can't explain. These are all signs that reality is starting to match your new state. And when you answer those signs with faith, they multiply. The universe wants to know, are you really living from this new identity, or just testing it? Need a real-world example? Imagine someone who assumed the state of being prosperous. At first, maybe they don't win the lottery, but they get a gift, an unexpected refund, a creative solution. Those little things are proof in disguise. Treat them with gratitude, not skepticism. This is the moment to stay steady, because right after those soft signs comes the bigger test. The hardest part of this whole process isn't the beginning, it's the middle. It's when you've already chosen the new state, felt it, imagined it, and still nothing outside seems to change. Reality stays quiet, no movement, just stillness. This is what Neville called the test of persistence. And it's in this moment that many people snap back into the old self, the one who feels powerless, rejected, unlucky. But this phase is exactly what separates the ones who wish from the ones who embody. Neville taught that persistence in your chosen state is what builds the bridge between your current world and the one you want to live in. You don't have to make it happen. You just have to keep assuming it's real, even when nothing is showing up. That's real faith. Not blind faith, but clear, grounded spiritual certainty. The steady repetition of your I am melts away the old identity over time, quietly, powerfully. Want some advice from someone who's lived through it? Create rituals. Write every morning as if your desire is already done. Speak to your reflection with conviction. Walk through your day like someone who's already arrived. This type of persistence isn't struggle, it's focused intention. Even if everything feels still, something inside you will start to move. And in the end, it all comes down to one question. Every single day, without fail, you wake up with a silent question waiting for you. Who do you choose to be today? And even if you don't answer with words, you answer it with your posture, your thoughts, your choices, your emotions. That choice isn't just symbolic, it literally shapes the way your day unfolds, because consciousness creates reality. And whatever you assume to be true the moment your feet hit the floor begins to manifest faster than you realize. Maybe yesterday you assumed scarcity. Today can be different. Maybe yesterday you carried a quiet, I'm not enough. Today, you get to try on, I am capable. No matter what your past screams, you're not stuck. The law of assumption is a daily invitation to rewrite the story. And the best part? You don't have to wait for anything outside to change first. You just have to assume it's real now. So instead of asking when will it happen, ask yourself, who am I deciding to be right now? That small shift changes everything. That's how a conscious, vibrant, magnetic reality begins to unfold. And if you hold that state with emotion, intention, and consistency, reality won't have a choice. It will bend, because it always bends to who you live as, not what you hope for. And that changes everything. Now that you understand that you only receive what you assume, the most powerful question you can ask yourself is, what am I assuming right now? Because that, and only that, determines what happens next. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Every new day gives you the power to choose a new state, a new I am, a new version of your life. And when you truly live as if it's already done, everything around you starts falling into place. So are you still waiting for external proof, or are you ready to assume right now the life you truly want to live? Will you keep clinging to the old you, or finally step into the new state that's already alive inside of you? Remember, imagination creates reality, but only when fueled by emotion, consistency, and boldness. So tell me in the comments, which I am are you choosing to live by starting today? If this made you rethink what you believed about your own reality, then it's time to take back the wheel. If this content opened your eyes, sparked something inside you, or hit a nerve, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay close. We're diving deep into Neville Goddard, the law of assumption, conscious manifestation, and the power of I am. Your new reality starts now.